All right, it's time for the Monday Night Raw review here on the WWE podcast, and we are on the road to Crown Jewel. Love it or hate it, whatever you think of Crown Jewel, that's the road we're on until October 21st. And last night's Monday Night Raw saw several new developments. Shayna Baszler continues to snap arms, and we love it. Doudrop ends up challenging for the Raw Women's Championship. A new challenger emerges for the WWE Championship, and much more. Let's get it all started right after this. Did you know that your state's DMV makes millions of dollars a year selling your information to data mining companies? Wild, I know. In today's age of information, the last thing you need is your home address and phone number readily available on the web. Think stalkers, debt collectors, and Karens. Oh my, no thank you. We have a solution for you. Welcome to Privacy Pros. Privacy Pros works by scrubbing your personal information websites by hand. They're the only American-based opt-out company that does this level of bespoke service. They own their own servers, they never outsource overseas, and they only use open-source software to further protect your personally identifiable information. Furthermore, unlike those other guys, they do not resell your data once your subscription ends with them. Every visit to the DMV, the purchase of a new car, or the start of a mortgage can trigger new sales of your information to these predatory data mining companies. Privacy Pros works by pairing you with a data specialist for the duration of your subscription. They monitor over 160 sites, actively removing your information and sending you quarterly reports for an entire year. Ready to scrub the internet of your information? Let the Privacy Pros get their hands dirty so you don't have to. Visit privacypros.com/wrestling for information. Again, that's privacypros.com/wrestling for more information. Privacy Pros, the premier professional opt-out services.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore. Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my honor. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Monday Night Raw review here on the WWE podcast. Man, I couldn't wait to hit the record button tonight. I was really looking forward to this after watching Monday Night Raw. And while I didn't think it was a bad show, I really didn't. I thought there were some good developments, interesting developments, new developments. Things started to take a turn towards the next pay-per-view in a big way, especially at the end of Raw. And that's a good thing. You know, it felt like things were a little bit stale, and they definitely shook it up. And yes, we have the draft coming next week, so that'll definitely shake things up. So we're going to get to, of course, the draft when it happens next week. That'll be the talk of the town with who goes where and what potential feuds we could see. And that'll be a lot of fun. That's always a fun time of year. But for right now, we're going to focus on Monday Night Raw that took place last night on September 27th, 2021. And let's start with the open of it, guys. I'm not even going to do my selfless, shameless plugs as I normally do. You know where to find me for all the things that you want ad-free. But, oh, wait, how could I forget? We do have one new patron over there on patreon.com, and I do want to give that individual a shout out because that's what we do when we have new patrons come on. So a big shout out to Rachel Mooney. Rachel, hope you enjoy all that is ad-free on Patreon. Much appreciated. Okay, thank you to everybody else on Patreon and on Apple Podcasts for subscribing. Let's move on. Let's get into the Monday Night Raw that started and opened the show. The match that opened the show. Big E versus Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship. Now, I don't want to say I told you so, but given my massive ego, I cannot let an opportunity pass without letting you know I told you so. Well, of course, Big E retains. I mean, that's not even the question. We all know that Big E is not going to lose his championship this soon. And moreover, I said that this is likely going to be split into two parts, where WWE is going to open with it. There'll be some shenanigans that will lead to the eventual main event, which is the match that opened the show. Now, I'm only bragging because it's not too often that I'm right on such a specific thing. Okay, so when I'm right, I hang on the rim because 9 times out of 10, I'm wrong. So when I get it, I certainly make it known. But that aside, the match itself, the first of the two with Big E and Bobby Lashley, it didn't last too long, and it was hard hitting. It's exactly what you would expect with two guys that athletic, that are that big, and both of them are very similar in their athleticism, which is insane given how muscular they both are. You would think that they're kind of stiff as boards. They don't have a whole lot of flexibility just looking at them, but you would be sadly mistaken if you've never seen them work before. You know, if a brand new fan came in, they probably would expect a just power move after power move, slow paced match, and that's not what you get with these two. I mean, credit to both guys. They just absolutely killed each other. And we had Big E get his lip busted within like 10 seconds of the match. And I mean, they certainly laid it all out there. And I give credit to both guys for both matches. But the first one, I really want to draw attention to something here. And that is that the very first match here ended in a no contest. Yeah, that's not a no contest, WWE. The reason it's not a no contest is because we had New Day save the ass of Big E, who had taken a spear and was about to lose the championship. That's a disqualification where Bobby Lashley wins, but I mean, he doesn't get the championship, but he wins the match. However, that's glossed over because they don't want to draw attention to the fact that a babyface group caused a disqualification to help save their friend from losing the championship. So they just called it a no contest. But did anybody else catch that? I saw that. I saw the description of it. I'm like, because I didn't in real time. I said, "Where's the bell? Where's the announcement of who won?" It's not. There's no such thing as a no contest here in this situation. This is definitive. Bobby Lashley wins by disqualification. Big E retains the championship, but they don't want to draw attention to it. See how the rules are bent when it suits the story? This is an example of it. And oh, don't worry, I've got a list of things that made no sense throughout the show, particularly with Doudrop and Charlotte. We'll get to that and much more on Bobby and Big E. But this, the no contest is a whole bunch of garbage. It's nonsense. But speaking of things that made even less sense, the Hurt Business? What are we doing? Is this just because people were on social media talking about how the match at Extreme Rules shouldn't have been with AJ, Omos, and Bobby Lashley, but rather the Hurt Business versus the New Day? Is that the problem people are having? And WWE's like, oh, well, the people want it. Let's give it to them. And creative's like, well, how are we going to explain the Hurt Business back together? Vince is like, we don't need an explanation. People just want to see it, and we're going to give it to them. Where's the explanation, Vince? I really don't have faith that they're even going to explain why Shelton and Cedric are back with Bobby. Now, in principle, I think they should have never left. And I think all of us can say, at least everyone that I've talked to that are listeners of this show, don't have any idea why the hell Bobby Lashley broke up, or WWE really, not Bobby Lashley, but rather WWE Creative, Vince, broke up the Hurt Business. It made no sense. None. And now all of a sudden, they're back in the group. Why? Again, I'm cool with them being in the group if there's some kind of logical reason why they are. And fine, let's see what happens next week. I will give it 1 week for them to explain it, because if it goes beyond a week, they're going to sweep it under the rug and just have everybody assume, well, they probably reconciled behind the scenes. You know, they realized the error of their ways and they took a beating from Bobby and now they're back to support a true friend. Like, are we supposed to all just assume that? So I don't have any idea why they're back together. None. But before I really go off on it, I do and will give WWE 1 week of a grace period, because I think it's owed to them that much. How can an interviewer going up to the Hurt Business not ask that question? You know, what brought you back? Why are you here? After what transpired several months ago, what, spring or early summer when they broke up, what brought you back? If there's not that question asked, I'm gonna lose it on this show. I mean, it's elementary. It's elementary, and what I mean by that is grade school kids would understand that they need to fill this hole in of the story, and it's just WWE simply not caring to fill it in. But, like I said, let's wait a week and see how things are followed up on. So, the Hurt Business is back together, presumably, and the New Day's there, and they're both this is apparently a dream match for some people. Amazing that this is considered a dream match nowadays. So, that is that. Now, let's take a break from the Bobby Lashley and Big E story, because we're going to get to that towards the end of Raw with the steel cage match, which actually, let me say this. We won't talk about the match itself, but rather what happened in the first segment with Adam Pearce. And after this, I want to talk about Goldberg. We had Adam Pearce come out, and Mr. Restore Order comes out here, and I've seen enough, and says this is not how it's going to end tonight here in Cincinnati, right? As if he's waiting for the big pop, and it was like lukewarm. And he proceeds to say that the way that he's going to get a definitive winner is by putting those two in a steel cage. Now, look, has Adam Pearce ever watched a steel cage match in the history of WWE? Has he ever understood that perhaps a steel cage is in no way a preventative measure, a foolproof preventative measure to have people interfere? In fact, it is an invitation for people to interfere. Why? Because there's no disqualification, meaning anybody can come in, doesn't matter. You can do what you want, and there's no rules, and there's no top to the cage, and you can easily access the door that's always open. It made no sense that apparently this is the solution. Instead of just saying you're banned from ringside, anybody that interferes gets immediately fined or suspended. End of subject. There. Solves everything. Right? Simple, easy to understand. And instead, we got to go with a steel cage. Now, I like steel cage matches. I do. Because they really don't happen too often. I mean, it's not like title matches that happen every single week, multiple times. It just feels like, at least in this period of time, I haven't seen a steel cage match in quite a while. So I was like, okay, cool. But I'm sure the fans in attendance who were there live in Cincinnati walked into the arena, looked up and said, oh, cool, steel cage. Who's going in it tonight? And I understand at home, they did not put any cameras on the steel cage. But if you're in the arena, you're looking up and you're like, oh, right, there's a steel cage match coming tonight. Now, had Bobby and Big E not ended in some kind of disqualification, because that's what it really was, not a no contest, would the steel cage match have happened? What was the steel cage match originally for? How did the production crew know to bring it? Did they just happen to have it on hand? So I know I'm nitpicking about that because they didn't present it to the live audience at home, but the people in person saw it, right? So it's just, I don't know. I'm digging too deep in pro wrestling, illogical things, but so that's my issue with the steel cage, as far as that's supposed to be the end all be all perfect way to stop interference in a cage. Now, the other thing about steel cage matches, and I've said this before too, if we're going to do them, can we at least have the common sense and decency and respect, for that matter, to stop with the two methods of being able to be victorious in the match of running away through the door, going over the top? Why is escaping a cage a way to win? The purpose of the cage is to keep you in. The purpose of the cage is so that you can't run from your opponent. And yet the method of winning is by running away from your opponent? Can somebody tell me that one? And furthermore, if all you have to do is walk out the door, walking out a door is a method of victory in a professional wrestling setting? How? And why do they suddenly forget how to walk when the cage door is open? Just as when they try to ascend a ladder or ascend a steel cage, they forget how to climb. These ultra world-class athletes forget how to put one foot in front of the other for the sake of drama, which all it does is take you out of the moment. So if they just, from now on, make steel cage matches pin or submission only, I'll be a happy camper. Nobody out there, nobody can definitively tell me why it's a great idea to have a steel cage match victory method be to run away. It's really indefensible in my mind. All right, but on to the steel cage match a little bit later. Now on to Mr. Goldberg. That just will not go away. As we were promised, he said he's coming for the soul of Bobby Lashley. This time, he went on camera, and I'm not sure where he was, presumably at home, whatever. And he went through the whole rigmarole of what happened the last time they met at SummerSlam, and how Bobby Lashley put his hands on his son Gage, and how he's not sure what kind of father Bobby Lashley is. Well, let me clue you in there, Bill. If you are raising a son with the level of intelligence that is equated to jumping in the ring with a world-class athlete 17 times your size and attacking him from behind, if apparently that is your idea, your definition of properly raising a son that would feel that's a good idea, I think you may need to look in the mirror about who's the screwed up dad. Okay? And if Bobby Lashley didn't retaliate against Gage, I would have been disappointed. I mean, not because I hate Goldberg, but because it's self-defense. And how does he know who's on him? How does Bobby know who's attacking him? And furthermore, who cares? Someone's attacking you from behind. You don't have time to think. You just react. And you should. And if it's Gage, oh well. He's stupid enough to get in there. And furthermore, he attacked Bobby first. Are we not talking about this? Because we're supposed to say that Bobby Lashley is a bad man for attacking a 17-year-old kid? No, he didn't just do it out of nowhere. Bobby Lashley did not just attack Gage out of nowhere. He didn't pull him over the barricade and beat him in front of his dad. That would have been understandable in terms of getting heat. But if you're going to tell me that I'm supposed to dislike Bobby Lashley because he acted in self-defense for a fool who attacked him from behind and tried to choke him out, F you, dude. Your problem. You're the dumb one. Your son's the stupid one. And if you're going to talk about who's the good, who should be concerned about how they father their kids, well, Bill, again, you may want to revisit the morals and intelligence you've been instilling in Gage all these years. Now, of course, we're talking about wrestling storyline, not talking about real life. But here, if we're going to go there, let's go there. Right? I mean, so they're trying to make this real. So let's make it real. And furthermore, Bobby Lashley apparently is going to die at Crown Jewel. They didn't make the match official, but that's where we're going. And we had Goldberg say, if he ends up killing Bobby Lashley, so be it. What? That's the one thing, not the only thing, but one of the things in pro wrestling you do not say. Why? Because you can't deliver on killing somebody. I know Alexa Bliss even said before WrestleMania this past year, she was, the legend killer will die. And I'm like, we don't go there. Not that I'm not personally offended. I could care less about that. It has nothing to do with that. It's just stupid to bring up death in wrestling because 1,000% it's not going to be delivered on. And somebody may say, oh, it's just metaphorical. It's about the intensity. No, But then you have 1,000 other ways to present that anger, to present that intensity, other than saying, well, if I kill you, so be it. Because that immediately draws the attention to that word. You could say it's just a way to get people's attention, but you're also distracting from the message you're trying to convey by now bringing up death. It's an extreme analogy. It can't be delivered upon. It's laughable, and it just is not needed. All right, well, let's take a break for the sponsor of the show today, and then on the backside, we'll talk about something positive, really positive. I mean, it's something I really enjoyed, and that was AJ Styles and Riddle. That, to me, was a really just shining light in an illogical Raw. So stay right here. We'll be right back. Did you know that your state's DMV makes millions of dollars a year selling your information to data mining companies? Wild, I know. In today's age of information, the last thing you need is your home address and phone number readily available on the web. Think stalkers, debt collectors, and Karens. Oh my, no thank you. We have a solution for you. Welcome to Privacy Pros. Privacy Pros works by scrubbing your personal information websites by hand. They're the only American-based opt-out company that does this level of bespoke service. They own their own servers, they never outsource overseas, and they only use open source software to further protect your personally identifiable information. Furthermore, unlike those other guys, they do not resell your data once your subscription ends with them. Every visit to the DMV, the purchase of a new car, or the start of a mortgage can trigger new sales of your information to these predatory data mining companies. Privacy Pros works by pairing you with a data specialist for the duration of your subscription. They monitor over 160 sites, actively removing your information and sending you quarterly reports for an entire year. Ready to scrub the internet of your information? Let the Privacy Pros get their hands dirty so you don't have to. Visit privacypros.com/wrestling for information. Again, that's privacypros.com/wrestling for more information. Privacy Pros, the premier professional opt-out services.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
All right, let's get to something a little more positive. Cleanse our palates and talk about AJ Styles and Riddle. Man, what a match. I want to see this again. And it was physical. There was a moment where I thought AJ Styles was actually knocked out, where he slid and hit Riddle's knee, and even the referee went down clearly to check on AJ just to make sure that he was okay. You could see that was a real concern, and I understand that did look very real, and it was a great sell job by AJ. Obviously, he's fine, and that match was great. You know, here's the thing. I am not a proponent of constant kicks and knees to the skull that are sold as slaps. Really? I mean, like, for real. What I mean by that is, if you're really going to kick or knee somebody in the head as many times as these stars do in the ring, and it's not just AJ and Riddle, it's like throughout the wrestling industry as a whole, you got to cut back on them, because they're used as they're not even used as transition. They're just transactional exchanges. Everybody, you kick me in the head, I kick you in the head, and then it's just now the new just slap. I can't articulate it better than that. But outside of that, I mean, they still delivered them very well. It was a hard-hitting, great match that these two individuals clearly have chemistry together, and I would pay money to see them wrestle again in a 15, 20-minute classic. I think they're capable of that. Riddle just shows you week after week how damn good he is. Having AJ Styles go over was actually a really good thing. I think it was surprising to me, and going over relatively clean was very much needed for AJ, and perhaps it's a sign of things to come for AJ Styles, depending on what happens with him in the draft. It was nice to see AJ Styles get a win. I forgot what that feeling is like for AJ and the fans. And even, I think it was maybe Corey Graves who mentioned that, this is a much needed win for AJ, and it's true. He has felt like he's been taking pinfall after pinfall after pinfall the last several months, being in a tag team. And now he is getting a big victory in a singles match. Again, This to me may be a sign of things to come for AJ, and perhaps Omos and AJ are splitting due to the draft. You got to have a tag team split at some point during the draft, and AJ Styles Omos could be that one, because I think Omos would do fine alone still. He could have mentors backstage. He doesn't need to be out in the ring with somebody all the time, or at least in a tag team capacity. So I'm good with that, and having AJ back in a singles run, giving him one last big hurrah as a title holder of some sort, I think is deserving for AJ, and he's in the twilight of his career clearly, but still hasn't missed a step, and it would be a shame to not let WWE give him one more good run. If not, perhaps we see him in AEW. I mean, really, I think the fans will love AJ in AEW. I'd love to see it. It's just AEW is like the land of the free, where there's no restrictions. It's freedom of speech, right? It feels just such a different product, and you're always wondering, what would this person be like if they weren't handcuffed by WWE's micromanagement? And that's one of the things that's so appealing about AEW. But again, great match by both guys, and having Omos come in and lay out Riddle was a good thing. It drew heat for Omos and made you want to see Randy come out and RKO that big SOB, didn't it? And it also, before the match, it was funny listening to Riddle talk about how Randy wanted to, if he didn't shut up or something, he was going to RKO his head on the cement. It's great. And then having Riddle just kind of say it endearingly that Orton was going to do that, instead of taking it as a threat. It was almost like a compliment or something. So great stuff there. But that was, to me, the match of the night. Honestly, it was. So let's get to, oh God, I don't know if I want to. I'm scared about this. All right, well, let's do it anyway. Let's talk about Charlotte Flair versus Doudrop for the Raw Women's Championship. That was billed as an open challenge on the part of Charlotte Flair. And to me, open challenges aren't predetermined, because it's just that. It should be an open challenge where I guess it's first come, first serve. First person to gorilla position wins. I mean, I would guess that's how it works. That's how it's presumably been working for open challenges for several years in WWE. But, this time we had Doudrop go into the office of Pierce and Sonya Deville to challenge Charlotte for her open challenge. And Sonya Deville, who did mention Naomi again, I think that's clearly leading to a match between those two, which is going to be fun. And seeing Sonya out of a damn suit and managerial role is going to be the best thing ever for her, ever. So, but having Sonya tell Doudrop that it's not that you don't deserve it. No, she doesn't deserve it. What has Doudrop done on the main roster to deserve it? Beat Eva Marie a couple times? Like, what exactly, in your mind, Sonya, or creative, has Doudrop done to deserve a Raw Women's Championship match? See, this is another example, not just only having constant title matches on TV as apparently some kind of hook that viewers are supposed to keep all on their edge of their seats. Oh my God, we're getting yet another championship match. Well, I'm tuning in. Let me call a friend. Yeah, apparently that is the logic, presumably, behind all these matches. But again, we had Doudrop. How does she deserve it? Sonya, explain yourself what Doudrop has done in your mind to deserve a Raw Women's Championship match. So my point was, not only are we having too many matches that are championship matches, but also contenders that aren't worthy of those championships. Which, if you have people challenge for championships of which they are not worthy for, then you're bringing the championships down to the level of where that star is at, hoping that that prop will prop them up. It's not how it works. But that's just one part that made no sense about this. So, yeah, she had beaten one person, Eva Marie. And then Sonya then actually said, Boy, she had the lines of the night, let me tell you. Charlotte won't see it coming after she eventually agreed to this. What do you mean she won't see it coming? How is Charlotte not watching her own show? I mean, you guys are live, right? What if Charlotte's on Hulu TV, or just on some kind of streaming app watching the show, and she's like, oh, okay, apparently Doudrop is going to be my next opponent. What do you mean she won't see it coming? You're on live TV. And what about closed circuit TV? We've been shown that exists many times. This was preposterous. How is she not watching the effing show? Or at least somebody, a friend of hers maybe, is watching the show and texts her and says, hey, I'm not sure if you saw it, but Doudrop is challenging you for the Raw Women's Championship and being the one to step up for your Raw Women's, the Open Challenge. I don't know. Guys, I have a real big issue with the logic here. And I know that some of you don't enjoy when I or other podcasts just tear apart the logic because it takes the fun out of pro wrestling. But I can't in good faith sit here and say a segment's good just to be positive, just so I don't spread any negativity. Oh, he hates everything. Oh, no. I love professional wrestling, and simple things like this that WWE does, I'm not giving them a pass on. Why are we giving passes for things that are simple fixes? Not everything's a simple fix. By God, not everything's a simple fix. But when you have production issues that are simple fixes, or you have just tweaks in the way things are said on TV, or how a championship match comes about, it's that kind of thing. There's no consistency. Here's one example of 1,000. We have heard from Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce many times that they're the ones that make the matches, especially championship matches. Oh, really? Okay. Well, then where were you when Big E and Bobby Lashley set up their championship match for the open of Monday Night Raw? Did you pre-approve that? Did they have to sign a contract? We're told they always have to sign contracts for matches, especially championship matches. So again, I'm not actually mad about that. I'm just giving you an example. There's no consistency. And I know there are people, or if WWE management was listening to this, they'd say, you're thinking about it too much. Just sit back and enjoy. Well, fine, I can enjoy, but I can only transplant my brain so many times, or just completely remove it, before it becomes infuriating to watch. And I'm not saying I'm smarter than anybody, but I do enjoy a level of intelligence in my programs that doesn't insult it. Sometimes, yes, we in fact, we all do want to zone out sometimes at the end of the day, right? You're exhausted from work. You want to come home. You just want to chill. For those of us that have kids like myself, yeah, that ain't happening, right? Your free time is bathroom time. And if you think I'm kidding, talk to any parent, especially one that has a newborn or a toddler or both. Your free time is literally when you go to the bathroom. And even then, it's sometimes just knocking at the door incessantly. Everybody that's a parent and within the sound of my voice understands this, which I was not fully prepared for in my life. Anyway, it's the greatest and hardest thing ever. So my point is, I know the criticisms that would come at me. You tear down wrestling. You're breaking it apart. You are ruining what makes wrestling great. It's about not thinking. It's about just enjoying. Okay, if somebody really wants to just switch off their brain totally and not dig into, hey, wow, there's a massive plot hole here and a massive plot hole there, fine, more power to you. I enjoy a little bit more of an intelligent product. One that doesn't rely on the stupidity of the stereotypical wrestling fan to get by in thinking like Vince would think, well, fans don't remember that anyway. Nobody remembers that. All they care about is the big matchups and the rivalries, but they don't care about the details to get there. Let's just get there. Screw the logic. We're going to have, 18 chapters we skipped, but we're going to get you there anyway. So I'm going a little bit on of a sidebar, but I just want to try to respond to, I'm sure, some criticism of people that, and I've heard it. I've seen my reviews of my podcast sometimes. Oh, he's negative. I love wrestling. I know it can be better. That's all. I'm not saying I know everything about wrestling. I certainly don't. There's many people that have been watching twice as long as I have. But I'm going to call a spade a spade. I'm not and never will ever on this podcast fake something on here just to make sure I'm positive. Now, I'll try to put a positive spin on something. No problem with that. But I do not sit here, and I will not, like other podcasts, like State Run Radio, and just, we just report on what happens. We don't really have an opinion about it, or everybody's so negative, let's try to be positive. No, we call it like it is. All of our co-hosts and great hosts on this show call it like it is. So while this show has been primarily negative towards WWE's logic, it's deserving. It's damn deserving. And if you want to be an apologist for WWE, have at it. Have at it. But I'm not going to sit here and undermine my own integrity just to make sure that I am more positive on this show. Yeah, not happening. But I do certainly give praise where it's due. And there were some praisable moments on this show. Unfortunately, not a lot of them for this week, but there have been quite a few over the last several months. All right, I think I've said my piece on that. Let's move on here. Oh boy, I'm trying to move on to something positive. I really am. Okay. Well, let's get into the Charlotte and Doudrop match. I didn't hate the match itself. I think giving Doudrop some women's main event spotlight is good. It's good. You do want to build new stars. You do want to give them a little bit more of the limelight, eyeballs on them, all that. Yeah, of course. I'm all for that. And I agree. And I think Doudrop is fun to watch. Her dancing and all that reminds me a little bit of Otis. Like Vince is treating her like the female version of Otis. So be careful of that. Just because she's a little heavier and doesn't fit nearly in the mold, literally, of Vince McMahon's ideological just perfection of what a female performer should be, a female wrestler. Boy, I'm speaking the lingo, aren't I? And I know that she goes against all of that, all the grain that Vince just stuck in about what a wrestler should look like. But I enjoy Doudrop. I think that she's got character. It's nice that they've given her at least a little bit of a voice. She, I think, stands out with her body type. Now, of course, you have Nia Jax, you have Tamina, that are bigger women, but that's a good thing. I want varying body types. I don't need runway models in their tight outfits talking about how beautiful they are or whatever, i.e. Carmella, i.e. Eva Marie. I don't need that kind of stuff on my show. I don't. I want to see varying body types. I think it's good. I think it's good to say, hey, we're not just promoting ultra athletic magazine cover women. It's good. And as a guy, I'm not sitting here, rah. I'm just being honest. And same goes for the men, right? I don't need to see everybody with a six pack and looking the same and looking like they came out of that same damn corporate mold. That's great. So I'm a big fan of Doudrop from that perspective. She's confident. I give her credit on that. She's a good performer. I like her presence in the ring. Yeah, she jiggles and wiggles. Who gives a damn, right? Who cares? Otis did that for how long? And now he's in a more serious role, and I think doing some big things maybe are coming for Otis down the line. But just because you jiggle and wiggle doesn't mean you can't get the job done. So I think that she is eventually a future women's champion. Not anytime soon. She's got a lot of work, foundational work to get through yet, but she's apparently going to continue this program with Eva Marie. That's the downside of this whole thing. So Eva Marie ends up interfering via her entrance. It distracts Doudrop. She gets natural selection, and Charlotte gets the victory. Then we get the Eva Marie on the microphone. Or I'm sorry. She was standing apparently in Charlotte's ring, trying to take her spotlight. Charlotte laid her out. The crowd loved it. And I have to agree with that. I really do. But now let's get to something really good. So we talked about a couple really bad things in terms of logic, a great match with AJ and Riddle, a so-so segment that made no sense how to get here, but I enjoyed Doudrop and giving spotlight to different women. But now, here's where things get really fun, because Shayna Baszler, after Eva Marie was cutting a promo in the ring, came out, brutally attacked Eva Marie, choked her out, and then starts her trend of snapping arms. Now, is it being reported that she's actually snapping the arms and people these individuals are going to be out with injury? I don't think so. They just say that she's like stomping on her arm, and I don't know if she's going to be creating all these injuries. But this is the version of Shayna Baszler that I've been clamoring for, and I know many of you have over many, many, many months now, saying that she's been hiding in the tag team, has been taking pinfalls when she shouldn't be, really just not being who we know she can be. So she snapped Nia Jax's arm. She snapped Eva Marie's arm. Man, I couldn't design two better women to do this to. How is this turning her heel? Is this an attempt to turn Shayna Baszler or continue to turn her heel? Like, how? Nia Jax is not well liked by fans. Eva Marie, no love lost there. Like, what's the objective here? Which side of the aisle are they going for? Because this is the Shayna Baszler people wanted, and she's also attacked two heels over the last 2 weeks, but yet the announcers are framing it as she's a bad person. I love either way. I don't care if they try to turn her heel or if this is a babyface run. I would assume it's heel still, because she's actually hurting and injuring people. I'm assuming that that's the logic here. But I don't care. To me, however they cast her is irrelevant, because this is the version of Shayna Baszler that I wanted all along. We wanted, I should say, all along. And we've missed, and missed dearly. She stopped snapping people's arms a year or so ago, and now it's back. I love it. And she feels more dangerous than ever. And it's amazing just how a couple of weeks can erase all of those bad months of being in a tag team taking pinfalls. It's just so nice to see. I have to say that. So good move here. Somebody got the message, and it's the real Shayna Baszler back in the ring, snapping arms and trying to just hurt people. Great stuff. All right. Let's continue on. Jackson Riker lost to Karrion Kross via submission with a cross jacket in a quick match. Whatever. I mean, you talk about a botched debut from the main roster for Karrion Kross. My, oh my. Okay. Jinder Mahal, Veer and Shanky defeated Jeff Hardy, Mustafa Ali, and Mansoor via pinfall after Veer hit Ali with the lariat. Okay, so we have Ali taking another pinfall. Jeff Hardy continues to be on the losing side of just life. And Mansoor doesn't have his superpowers yet, but he will once he goes to Saudi Arabia, because it's like the sun to Superman. It is his power source is being in Saudi Arabia. You could have Stone Cold Steve Austin come back from retirement saying, I want a match with Mansoor in the main event at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia, and we have Mansoor win that match. That's how much WWE puts stock in Mansoor every time he goes to Saudi Arabia. You don't believe me? Go back and watch the reaction for him the last couple of Crown Jewels, and you will see. He just will win everything, and they will not make him look like a fool. So I would not want to be on the other side of the ring of Mansoor. He's going to Hulk up to the max. All right. The United States Championship match. Damian Priest defeats Sheamus via pinfall with Reckoning. This was a really, Sheamus is a beast in the ring. And I mean that not disrespectfully, but also I mean it in a way that I wouldn't want to be on the other side of the ring from him. And knowing that I'm going to wake up tomorrow groaning. I also respect his style, because he is you can't see through it. He's physical. He doesn't pull punches. He is a machine in the ring. And I got to give Sheamus credit for all these years of continuing to be that way. He's always been that way. And we had Damian Priest really show the wounds of war, as Corey Graves likes to say. And he was with his back welted up and so forth. So with the beloved kendo sticks and steel chairs and tables. But we had Priest get the win, retain his championship. But both men, I can guarantee you, today woke up and said a couple of 4-letter words before they rolled out of bed. They really took shots at each other, not in an unprofessional way, just in a way that I respect it, but again, I also don't envy either man, especially Priest. But the key here was, the message was, Damian Priest right now is elevated above Sheamus in the pecking order of things, and getting a clean victory over Sheamus is this program's done. For the United States Championship, this is done. And I'm fine. Damian Priest does need to move on. It's getting a little bit stale, and I know everyone's attention span is 0. But with the draft coming up, the next opponent for Priest will be revealed. Probably next Monday. So it's going to be fun. All right, what were some other matches not on Hulu? Angel Garza defeats Eric via pinfall after hitting a wing clipper. Fine. No problem there. I'm Angel Garza getting a whole remake of his look. Cool. I mean, I'm all for it. I don't know what the ultimate plan is. I really don't. But Angel Garza getting a victory here over Eric is fine. 24/7 Championship, Reggie versus Ricochet ended in a no contest. 2 no contests, huh? After interference from Drew Gulak and R-Truth. Again, this is not a no contest. I understand it's 24/7 Championship, 24/7 rules. It is not a no contest. It's a DQ. Oh, God. Again, the 24/7 rules were suspended during the match. The attack was a setup to try to allow Akira Tozawa to win the belt from Reggie, but Reggie was able to escape the ambush with his title. All right, so Reggie is the new R-Truth, is essentially the message here. All right. Oh, good Lord. Oh, good Lord, good Lord. Keith Lee defeats Akira Tozawa. And that's not really the issue here, or really the talking point. The talking point is Lee being announced as, get ready for it, Keith Bearcat Lee. What? Am I missing something that I'm supposed to be impressed by? Am I supposed to be wowed by this? Am I supposed to feel differently about Keith when I hear this nickname? Did anyone explain what it's supposed to mean? Am I supposed to wonder? Am I supposed to come to my own conclusion? Is no one going to explain it? It's just going to be there. No one, it's just there, and we don't talk about it. What the hell is a bearcat? Again, it reminds me of cat dog. It's putting 2 animals together in a name. Doesn't make any sense. It's not a good nickname. What exactly is a bearcat? Is this some kind of real animal? Or did Vince hear bear cat like as a nickname in a movie he was watching over the weekend, or somebody just mentioned it in passing and he's like, "Oh, I love it. That's such good you know what?" Like, what the F is a bearcat? Is it? I mean, I'm being serious. Maybe it is an actual animal and I'm feeling like a total fool right now. But I'm going to venture to guess that this is not an actual mammalian species. It does not exist on Earth. And if that's the case, what is the purpose of this name? It's not catchy. It sounds gimmicky. It doesn't serve a purpose. Keith Lee is just fine. I'm trying to get in Vince's head. And when I do that, first of all, it's a scary place to be. But secondly, I'm imagining Vince hearing the name Keith Lee, and he's like, it's a little bland, pal. We need to add something to it. We need to spice it up. Yeah, well, Bearcat is not the way you do that. I can guarantee you that. Bearcat is not as intimidating as you may imagine it in your mind. Am I wrong, guys? Can anybody back up this Bearcat nickname? Can somebody explain it? Is it a real animal? is it somewhere in the animal kingdom of this earth, a bear cat. It reminds me, if anybody's seen, not just Cat Dog, which is an old cartoon. When I say old, like 90s. It reminds me of, if anybody watched South Park. Okay, I don't watch too many South Park episodes. I've seen the big ones, like the one of World of Warcraft, or For the Love of Warcraft, or something like that, which is just such a good one because I was really big into Warcraft at that time. But there's another one that this really screwed up character comes in. He's called Man Bear Pig. Man Bear Pig comes in several episodes. It's man. They say it's like half man, half bear, half pig. I mean, do the math on that. It's ridiculous, right? But that's what this sounds like to me. It's just a mash of different animals and different species and thrown it together. And it's supposed to be catchy. Now, Man Bear Pig is so preposterous and on a cartoon that it's stuck. But Bearcat, I don't know, guys. I've spent way too much time on this. But it's such a gimmicky corporate Vince thing to do to try to market him because apparently he thinks Keith Lee isn't enough. It's so bizarre. Unless Keith thought of this himself, it's a bad idea. All right. Oh boy. Let's go on here to the championship match inside a steel cage. It was fine. It was, again, physical, which physical was really the adjective of the night. It was a physical night for Monday Night Raw. And when it was, at least in the ring, when matches were going on, really, really physical. And I appreciate that. The effort by both Bobby and Big E is and was off the charts. Good stuff there. I already went over what I don't like about steel cage matches. But this match was really good. And unfortunately, we had Big E get the victory relatively clean, although we had interference by both the New Day and the Hurt Business. But Big E ends up cleanly beating Bobby Lashley via the second rope big ending. Didn't make the move any better. It's still just a big belly flop, which is just piss poor bad of a finish. I cannot pinpoint anybody else in the entire industry that has a worse finish than Big E. For such a strong, athletic guy, you can't come up with anything? Anything? All right. Anyway, we've all been educated. It's a finish, so we're all just supposed to roll with it, even though it looks like total garbage. It's not that you can execute it any better than he does. It's just a bad move fundamentally. So, all right. Anyway, this was a really, really good match, and we got Big E having the clean victory, really solidifying Bobby Lashley now as a peg below Big E. So that's where WWE stands. We had Big E out there celebrating his victory, and out comes Drew McIntyre. To, I think, generally a positive reaction. You heard some scattered boos, but generally positive. And I didn't expect it, but it makes sense given that the stipulation for Drew was he can't challenge for the WWE title as long as Bobby Lashley's champion. Well, Bobby Lashley's not champion anymore, and that's what he'll probably say next week. However, what if they're not drafted on the same brand? Right? Then there goes that. So that tells you right there, Big E and Drew McIntyre are going to be on the same brand. Otherwise, they would not have put them together at the end of Raw to only separate them in the draft and have this match not happen. So you're going to see them on the same brand, whatever that may be. I'm assuming they'll both stay on Raw. So if that's the case, cool. And as much as I complained, and I did, and many of us did, I'm not going to hide from it, that Drew McIntyre is just incessantly in the title picture. Oh my God, get him out, get him out, get him out. I said it. I 100% stand by it, and I'm fully admitting that because it was too much. And now it's been a little while, not as long as I'd like for him to stay out of the title picture. I was hoping it'd be several more months, but alas, here we are. It's going to be now a Drew McIntyre back in the title picture situation, but I'm cool with it because any competitor other than Big E as champion right now, to me is better. And I don't, again, Big E as a person, great, performer, great. It's just all about the character for me. That's really the only thing killing it. It's nothing to do with work ethic and respect. It's all about the character that is just obscenely just sophomoric to me. But I would actually rather have Drew McIntyre, the guy that was in a championship picture, either directly or indirectly for 18 months, challenge Big E and win rather than have Big E as this current character as champion. It's not going to happen because Big E is at the beginning of his title run. People want to see what that can do. We've got at least through the end of the year, calendar year, to see. Maybe he loses at the Rumble. Maybe he doesn't lose to WrestleMania. But there's no way that Drew is going to win that championship, at least at this point in time. I really doubt it, unless they're trying to turn Drew heel. That's also a possibility. What if they turn Drew heel and he's champion? Something to think about. Little food for thought. But all right, let me go through my notes here. I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything because I was writing furiously while I was watching Raw. And I'm looking at CBS Sports because I do go to them for any matches I missed and look at some of the highlights that are posted on Twitter and so forth. They rated this, and let me just read you their final paragraph about the review for this show. CBS Sports said, and I quote, "In what was a very good episode of Raw, Lashley and Big E delivered the goods in both the opener and main event. Big E needed a clean win to really establish himself as a true champion, and that's exactly what happened. Big E now has 3 pinfalls over Lashley, which should be enough to move on. McIntyre isn't the most exciting option." They gave this a grade A. I wouldn't call this a very good episode of Raw. I think they have a little bit of a vested interest in WWE. You need to be very weary of big sites like this, like news reporting sites that perhaps have connections to WWE. So take that for what it's worth. It feels like state run radio here. But nonetheless, again, as much as I complained about some of the logic, it wasn't a bad Raw. I understand where they were going. Doesn't mean I don't hate. I hated where they were going. It's just the logic to get there doesn't exist most of the time. And I like good storytelling. For all of the times and all of the years and all of the segments that they have told us, they're all about storytelling. They sure still haven't perfected it, have they? They haven't even perfected it at times on a basic level, where they don't even show us chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They just go from chapter 1 to 5, and then they skip to 3 to 4 to 2 to 1 and go back to 5 eventually. They just don't have a clear, concise path. And the chaos backstage bleeds into the story they're telling because they either don't care to put the logic in, don't care about the detail, or Vince truly believes that his audience is dumb enough or passive enough not to care about the fact that they're missing plot holes. Or they're just flat out lazy when it comes to that. I don't know. One last thing I'll say, and this is a little bit random, and then we'll close it out. I'm just on a tear tonight, guys, and I apologize if this is overly negative, but it sometimes things just need to be said. Now, I've heard that another podcast, I won't name them because there's just no need to. There was somebody on a podcast, a guest host, and they said that, and this person was a previous writer for WWE, and that person heard people complaining about writers just writing for Vince. And he said, well, yeah, that's, in other words, this guest said, yeah, that's what they do. Well, why wouldn't you write for your boss? Because he's the guy that writes your paychecks, or he's the one that is ultimately deciding the creative. The point of that, when people write for Vince, the point being made is that if they have a better idea that is not just for Vince, but rather a better idea for a story that is a more general appeal, a mass audience appeal that may not appeal to Vince, but is a better story, that's the problem. Vince McMahon creating a culture in which he tries to get the writers to write for him, even if he doesn't tell them to, it's implied. And if you're creating a culture where you are writing for your boss and maybe not necessarily what's right for the product, there's a problem. You shouldn't write for your boss. You should write for what you believe could be a really good storyline. And the fear of those individuals on creative to not do that is the problem. Okay? So that's the clarification. I just wanted to say that because I have my own platform and I can say it. So anyway, guys, those of you that are listening to me this long in the show, thank you so much. I do appreciate all your support, and I hope I didn't run everybody into the ground for this show. I call it like it is. That's all it is. That's all there is to it. I hope you guys appreciate that. If not, cool. Then this podcast isn't for everybody, and no harm, no foul. So, all right, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow with your mailbag and nostalgia, and then I will mercifully close out the week tomorrow, and then you'll get the rest of the co-hosts on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I'll be back Sunday with your week in review. So, everybody, thank you so much as always for listening, and I will talk to you next time. Did you know that your state's DMV makes millions of dollars a year selling your information to data mining companies? Wild, I know. In today's age of information, the last thing you need is your home address and phone number readily available on the web. Think stalkers, debt collectors, and Karens. Oh my, no thank you. We have a solution for you. Welcome to Privacy Pros. Privacy Pros works by scrubbing your personal information websites by hand. They're the only American-based opt-out company that does this level of bespoke service. They own their own servers, they never outsource overseas, and they only use open source software to further protect your personally identifiable information. Furthermore, unlike those other guys, they do not resell your data once your subscription ends with them. Every visit to the DMV, the purchase of a new car, or the start of a mortgage can trigger new sales of your information to these predatory data mining companies. Privacy Pros works by pairing you with a data specialist for the duration of your subscription. They monitor over 160 sites, actively removing your information and sending you quarterly reports for an entire year. Ready to scrub the internet of your information? Let the Privacy Pros get their hands dirty so you don't have to. Visit privacypros.com/wrestling for information. Again, that's privacypros.com/wrestling for more information. Privacy Pros, the premier professional opt-out services.